Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar, our town hall with our CEO, Craig Leonard. My name is Migdalia Gomez, and I'm our Community Engagement Manager, and I will be asking Craig the questions that you submitted. With us today is also Tom Montilli and Sarah Scruggs, who will be monitoring our chat. So before we get started, I'll do a very brief intro on our President and CEO Craig Leonard. Craig has been with the credit union for over a decade and most recently became our CEO over the last year in July. And that's all I will say about Craig, because you're going to get to hear from him throughout the rest of today's presentation. Very quickly, just some logistics. What we did was when you submitted your registration, a lot of you submitted questions, which we really are thankful for. So what we did is we took those questions and we're going to ask those questions to Craig. As for how you can communicate with us, we have gone ahead and muted folks just so it's easier for you to hear us. If you're having any technical issues, you'll be able to let us know via the chat. My first recommendation would be to adjust the sound on your end. So if it's too loud, too low, just adjust the sound on your end. But if you're having any other technical issues, feel free to let us know. We are going to use the questions panel. So if there is a question that maybe Craig says something and it prompts you to think, oh, what about XYZ? You can let us know using the questions panel. The questions will either be on the right-hand side or the top navigation, depends on what device you logged in on. To make sure that it's working and that you are able to ask questions, let us know using that questions panel, how long have you been an HUECU member? And I will just take a moment and make sure that I am seeing some of those responses. That way I know that folks are comfortable submitting. Wonderful. So how long have you been a HUECU member? 10 years. Someone since 1989, 20 years. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for being members of the credit union. And continue to submit questions this way. As of right now, 12 years. So the youngest member that we have is 10 years. I love this. Thank you so much. We are also going to send you the recording of the webinar. You'll have that available to you as well. It'll be posted on our website later next week. Oh, 32 years. Thank you so much. So I'm going to get it started. I'm going to stop sharing my camera so that you can see Craig, but you'll hear me asking him the questions and letting him know what additional questions are submitted. So to get us started, Craig, one of the questions that we received from our members was, will HUECU be offering any higher CD rates in the near future?
I wish my answer was yes on this one, but unfortunately, I don't see that happening over the near term. You know, the markets have changed dramatically with the pandemic, and really, you know, last March, the Federal Reserve took some real aggressive action in the marketplace, really pushing down short-term interest rates essentially to zero. And what that has done is it's really pushed interest rates and deposits for all financial institutions much lower. And so all institutions have been moving their deposit rates down for some time. Here at the credit union, we take pride in offering really high and aggressive interest rates for our CDs. It's a mission that the management team has, as well as the board. We survey our local marketplace on a weekly basis, and across the different terms that we do offer, our rates are the highest in the marketplace, and we're happy in doing that, and we'll continue to be in the upper tiers for as long as we possibly can. But I don't see interest rates necessarily moving higher from where we are today.
Thank you, Craig. And I also want to mention we have 2 members that have been with us for 40 years. So I wanted to say a special thank you to those members for being with us for 40 years. And I'll move on to the next question. When will you offer contactless technology on HUECU cards?
Well, we're happy to announce that we started issuing contactless cards for credit cards here in January. All new cards, as well as cards that we're reissuing, are all contactless for credit cards. And by the end of March, we'll be doing the same for our debit cards. This was a big initiative that we took on last year, and we're happy to start rolling that out to the membership now. And I think the membership will really appreciate it, especially during these times where we're during the pandemic.
How can I optimize the money I have at the credit union?
That's a great question. You know, everyone's trying to get the most in terms of yields that they're earning on their deposits. You know, we're proud that we have a diverse lineup of different deposit products that meet the needs of our membership, anything from a checking account to a savings to a money market account to a term deposit. I think part of it does start with understanding what your cash flows and your budget are like. I think that's kind of the basics for all of us, and not always the easiest task to take on. I understand that too. But once you have a sense of what your cash flows are like, then you can really start to kind of gauge where you want to allot your money. You know, certainly you want to have money for your transactions, your bills. That's what a checking account is primarily for. But as you have excess cash, you want to build up that emergency fund account, and then gravitate probably more towards those higher yielding products, money market accounts, as well as term deposits. You know, one of the more exciting products that we're going to be announcing over the next month or two are two new checking products. One is a premium interest rate, and one is a cashback type of checking account. The beauty about the premium interest rate is, one, it'll offer you a high rate, almost higher, if not higher than some of the CDs we offer, but it'll also provide that liquidity, that immediacy to your funds. So you'll be hearing about that product more over the next month or so. We're really excited about offering it to the membership.
What improvements and new services are planned to better serve our members?
We're really busy at the credit union, and one of the things that we've made a real mission over the past few months in particular is reducing friction. We really want to improve that member experience, those interactions that you have with us at the credit union. The thing that I say regularly to our staff here is that, hey, you know what? Life is stressful. Life is complicated. The way you interact with the credit union shouldn't be. So as much as we can try to reduce friction in our processes, that's what we're trying to do. We're working now on rolling out a new mortgage platform. Going through a mortgage is a complicated process. We're trying to take some of that stress out of that. We're introducing a new platform. So when you open accounts online, much more intuitive, much more streamlined, and we'll be doing the same thing for consumer loans. So from an improvement standpoint, much of our focus is geared towards reducing friction, improving that experience. In terms of new services, we are promoting now a brand new Rewards Plus credit card. It has a really attractive reward structure, and also a really attractive rate. So you're getting the benefit of rich rewards, and you're not paying a high rate of interest on the product as well. We'll be rolling out these two new checking products that I just mentioned, a premium rewards checking account, as well as a cashback checking account. The other service that we're really excited to launch, likely towards the end of the third quarter, is Zelle. Zelle is a P2P solution. You might not be familiar with the term Zelle, but I'm sure most people are familiar with Venmo. It is essentially Venmo. It's a transfer between bank to bank versus how Venmo works, but it's essentially Venmo. In fact, Zelle is a much larger player in the space than Venmo is today. So this was a service that a lot of members have been asking for, and so we're happy to be able to introduce it later this year.
A lot of exciting new initiatives happening in the next couple of months. Another quick side note, Craig, we have a member that has been with us since 1973, and they did the math for me, 48 years.
Wow.
And the interest on the share account was 8% when they joined.
It was crazy. Yeah, you know, back in the 70s, it wasn't you know, getting a CD and around, you know, 15, 16, 17% was commonplace. On the flip side, the lending rates were astronomical. And so, we're in a rate environment now for depositors where it's not super. If you are a borrower, however, it's the best time ever to be out there buying a new car, getting a car loan, or refinancing your mortgage. This past year, in fact, was our highest year in terms of mortgage originations. In a normal year, just to kind of keep things in perspective, we would do about $200 million in mortgage originations. In 2020, we did in excess of $420 million in mortgage originations. So the decrease in interest rates that have transpired and within the marketplace are really being taken advantage of by our members and by consumers.
Thank you, Craig. We appreciate that history. When will HUECU reopen all branches?
Yeah, first, again, back to the pandemic, we have a number of our branches that are in other facilities. And so when the pandemic hit, some of those other buildings closed. And so we were forced to kind of close those branches as a result. The two branches that have remained open through the entire pandemic crisis have been our Harvard Square branch, as well as our branch over at Mass General Hospital. And want to give a quick shout out to our staff over there who have been just unbelievable, going to work day in and day out through this virus. They've been just awesome. So thank you. In terms of when we will be reopening some of our other branches, a lot of that, again, will go back to when those individual buildings will open up for their staff. We've seen over at the Navy Yard, as an example, they're starting to slowly bring some people back. So what we've done is we've opened that branch on a modified schedule right now. Once the other two buildings open up, we'll likely do the same thing. But we're monitoring it regularly, and hopefully we'll be able to open up those other two branches soon enough.
Are there plans for new HUECU locations outside of Boston, Cambridge?
Yeah, we get this question asked a lot from the membership, and we look at our branch network regularly, and for us, we really need to make sure we're putting branches where our members either work or live. And our membership, where they're located, can be pretty diverse. There's not a lot of concentrated pockets of where our membership kind of reside. So at the moment, we're not looking to expand our branch network. We are continuing to look at those two things, like I mentioned. Where we are focusing probably more of our investment and resources is really towards improving our digital channels, and we'll continue to do that as we go forward.
Why does HUECU only offer mortgages in Massachusetts?
Yeah, this has been a frustrating thing for a large number of our members over the years. Many people might not realize this, but when credit unions started here in the United States, they really started and originated here in Massachusetts. The problem with that is some of the laws associated with credit unions are archaic. The last real change in state legislation occurred around 30 years ago, and the Massachusetts credit unions have been lobbying for what seems like a decade to modernize the rules. Up to this point, the credit unions have been restricted in terms of not being able to lend mortgages outside a 100-mile radius from their headquarters. So we could not go beyond 100 miles here in Cambridge. It allowed us to go to a good part of the western part of Massachusetts, into parts of New Hampshire and parts of Rhode Island, but it really did constrain us. January of this year, this modernization law got passed, which is really exciting for us at the credit union and excited for our membership, in that 100-mile radius was abolished. Now, it doesn't mean that we can make mortgages nationwide, but it does allow us to expand our geography where it would include now Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and of course, Massachusetts. So I think it's going to help a number of our membership as we go forward in terms of their home buying needs.
We have 4 additional questions, and I just want to take this moment to remind members that if you do have a question for Craig, you can use the questions panel, which will be on the right-hand side or the top navigation, depending on how you logged in. How will the stimulus package affect HUECU student loans?
Yeah, this has been confusing out there for a lot of student loan borrowers. There's 2 types of student loans out there. There's federal student loans and there's private student loans. The loans made here at the credit union are private student loans, and most of the talk, if not all of the talk, within the stimulus package at this point has really been around federal loans. So when you hear conversations about student loan forgiveness, those are primarily right now geared towards federal loans, and they would not impact the private loans that we do have here at the credit union. I know there's a number of student loan borrowers out there, like many borrowers, who have been impacted from the pandemic, and if you fall into this category, we are doing a number of modifications and forbearances to help through this crisis. If you find yourself in that situation, I would ask that you reach out to our student loan department. We're here to help you through this.
How can I protect myself when purchasing online, domestically, and internationally?
We've seen a real explosion in online purchasing. Certainly that's been happening for years, but really went into overdrive with the pandemic. I think my wife is on Amazon almost daily. It's like I've become best friends with the UPS and FedEx delivery folks. But I think some common sense comes into play in making sure that you are visiting trusted sites, for one. Like I said, my wife loves Amazon. There's other things that I think you should be mindful of. I think you should be monitoring your credit card statements on a regular basis to see if there's any strange activity that might populate. Take advantage of the free credit reports that you can get to see if any unusual activity might be happening. The other thing is that if you do have a credit card with the credit union and you're not using our credit card app, I'd recommend that you download it. It's got some great features and functionality. One of those are alerts. So there's an alert that if you wanted to be notified of any transaction that happens on your HUECU credit card, then it would alert you. There's ability to put geocoding in, so it might restrict purchases outside a certain geographic code. And then if you do see something odd and you want to dispute a transaction, the credit card app would allow you to dispute it right there. So I would recommend that you look at those type of things. And if you don't have that app, you certainly can go to the App Store and put in HUECU credit cards, and the app would be there. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to our support center. They'll help you right through the process.
What measures is HUECU taking to protect the security of member information?
There's nothing more important to us than protecting member information. We are certainly a highly regulated industry. We have bank examiners who come into our institution on a regular basis, and one of the things that they look deep and hard at is what we're doing to protect member information. We partner with a lot of different organizations, and we ensure that they have rigorous processes and policies and testing that goes on a regular basis to make sure that your data is protected. The other thing that we're doing is we're constantly educating and testing our own staff internally to make sure that we're doing everything to safeguard you. There are times when, quite frankly, we reach out to members and you know, we almost can be frustrating at sometimes when we're asking you questions of identification, and really, you know, although it might be frustrating on your end, the intent is really to safeguard your data and to make sure that we know exactly who we're transacting with. So apologies on that, but it's really in your best interest. And we're always looking for new ways to improve our technology. So we're trying to stay ahead of hopefully the people who are trying to infiltrate and do bad things.
Thank you, Craig. And the last question that I have before I turn it over to my colleague, Sarah, in case there were additional questions that were submitted during today's session, was how can members be supportive of HUECU?
It's a great question, and I really, whoever submitted this one, thank you. I love when the members are supportive and advocate on behalf of the credit union. There's a few things that I think you can do. You know, one of the things that we're trying to do in these town halls is really get feedback. And I think that's really important for us as an organization. If we're doing things well, let us know. If there's things that we need to improve on, I want to know that as well. If there's gaps in our products and services, we need to know. You know, our focus is on this community, and for us to do really well, we want to make sure that we are putting the products and services out there that you need, not only today but in the future, and that we are servicing you to the highest possible levels that we can. So feedback is something that you can do, and it would be invaluable. I think the other thing that you can do is think of us when you're looking to buy that next home and you need that loan, or you're going car shopping and you need that auto loan. We would love for you to do more business and services with the credit union. It allows us to grow. It allows us to reinvest back into our business, reinvest back into you as members. So the more business that you do, the better we can do and the better we can serve you. And the last thing I would say is that there's nothing stronger than word of mouth. So if you like what the credit union is doing, tell a friend who might be a member. You know, we're like any business, we need to keep growing. And so, and there's, like I said, there's nothing more powerful than a referral from a friend or a colleague. So shout it out if you can. But we really appreciate anything that you can do to help us as an organization get better.
Thank you, Craig. I am going to put up our closing slide, but we are still going to be here and have a couple of questions. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Sarah, who will ask you questions that came in as part of today's webinar.
Hi, Craig. A great question that came in was, will HUECU ever offer business accounts, such as for a condo association?
Going into business lending is on our radar screen. We've started to have some conversations within the management team as well as within the board. We don't have a specific timetable of when that will come to fruition. We think it's an important part of the evolution of our company. So it is very important to us, but I don't foresee it happening at least within the next 12, possibly 24 months.
Thank you. The next question, and this is a really hot button topic right now. Does the credit union have any plans to venture into cryptocurrency?
Not right now, you know, but it is something that we'll continue to keep on our radar screen. You know, in the grand scheme of things, we are still a small entity, and there's a lot of things still to learn about cryptocurrencies. So we're not ready to get into that line of business as of yet. We'll probably watch to see how other players do first, and see how it evolves, and if it becomes a little bit more, I'll use the word maybe mainstream, then we certainly will investigate it. But it's again, is not on our immediate radar at this point in time.
Thanks, Craig. And it looks like we have a couple more that will be answering kind of offline for you all, but that is all that we have for Craig from the members on right now.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone so much for joining us. Craig, I will turn it over to you if you want to close today's presentation.
Thanks, Magdalia. I really appreciate you doing these. This is the second one that we've done since I've taken over as the CEO, and it's something that we're going to continue to do. You know, I had said a couple minutes before that something that's incredibly important to me is having transparency and communication back and forth between the organization and the membership. You know, again, we're here to serve you, and the best way we can do that is understanding your needs and meeting those needs, and that's what we'll try to do each and every day. I would like to thank you for your time, thank you for your membership, and thanks for joining me today.